It's been a while since I've spoken about old Frankie Castle, and honestly, I'm overdue to talk about something that isn't a movie or a TV show. After all, I do have video games in the description of my channel, and The Punisher was what kicked off this whole pretentious video essay chapter of my life. If you're anything like me, you played many video games during the PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 era. Let's be honest, I haven't stopped fucking playing since I first got my hands on Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro or the side-scrolling Rayman. I know this will be different for everyone, but I am biased in saying that for me personally, those PS1 to Xbox 360 days were a golden era of gaming. So many goddamn classics from that time period still remain in my all-time greatest hits. Splinter Cell Chaos series set the standard for stealth games, Max Payne set the best ambience and tone for a narrative experience, Star Wars Battlefront 2 taught me how enjoyable it could be to see your fandom come to fruition in a video game. Red Dead Redemption awoke feelings and sentiments in me that my teenage self brushed off as just a good story. If you couldn't tell, I'm exposing myself as something of a gaming fiend, which I suspect many of you are as well. And despite my mother trying to neuter my playtime to weekends and holiday breaks, I still managed to become obsessed off of the minuscule amount of time crumbs that were left for me. Joke's on her, I'm more addicted than ever to the escapism that video games provide, so who really got the last laugh here? I promise I don't have too many mommy issues. Among this stockpile of nostalgic video games, one has been begging for a review like a retail worker trying to get you to fill out a survey about their performance. The game in the spotlight is The Punisher, made by Volition. Now, sadly, Volition closed its doors recently, and maybe that's what has me reminiscing so much about this Punisher movie tie-in video game. Now, I'm going to go against the grain here and avert myself from making a review of that Punisher game from the 2000s. You may be disappointed, but plenty of my YouTube coworkers, colleagues, content companions, I don't know, fucking YouTubers have made a dickload of Punisher reviews. So I'm all for letting the dead horse stay beaten and dead on this one, considering I have nothing new to contribute to that topic. By the way, Always Nerdy did a stellar Punisher retrospective, and it's for sure my favorite. It's ridiculously in-depth, and a bit of a long watch, but it's worth a sit down nonetheless. Instead, I'd like to soft pitch an idea for what I'd like to see in a modern day Punisher video game. Don't get too hot and bothered though, because I'm not writing it narratively. I'm actually just spitballing some things that I think would work in terms of core gameplay and mechanics. Now you may be asking yourself, holy shit, is the Hawk Diesel a game developer, or does he have a background in video games? The answer is fuck no. I don't know jack shit about fuck all in terms of game design, but I do know that if I were to combine many features and ideas of other video games and blend it together like a smoothie, I'd have a refreshing pile of shit. I believe that if you were to throw in the gunplay of Max Payne 3, the blood and gore of Red Dead Redemption 2, or The Last of Us Part 2, while throwing the in-your-face aggressiveness of Ghost Recon Breakpoint or Mafia 3, and adding the heist aspects of GTA 5, or the sheer tactical planning of the newer Hitman games, and on top of that, the ability of choosing your own playstyle like Splintercell Blacklist, I wholeheartedly believe you'd have yourself something close to a modern-day Punisher video game. Jesus Christ. Let's get a little bit fucking wacky too. I want it all to take place in the 80s. Dude, that'd be fucking insane and would go hard. Vietnam era Frank will always be my favorite, and we can tap into that Vietnam flashback experience for tutorials and storytelling. By making this type of Punisher, it'd be safe to say that it'd be its own standalone beast in itself and wouldn't be connected to anything modern, which honestly could work in terms of allowing the creative team to just make a good game that doesn't need to rely on world building. The old Punisher game used to have cameos from Marvel superheroes which took place before the MCU, and honestly it's kind of refreshing to see looking back. I'm just asking for some 70s to the 90s versions of comic book characters in general. Old school Ghost Rider on his iconic bike, leathered up Blade, that brown and yellow Wolverine, that simplistic yet effective white suit for Moon Knight, classic Nick Fury, and most importantly that iconic black and white suit for our boy Frank. I believe in recent years we've lost some of that zaniness that comes with comic book characters, and you know me, I'm always campaigning for writers to take comic book heroes more seriously in film and TV, but hey man, in a video game you can still do both effectively. So, I say you should go all out and make it lean more into the comics. A late 1980s New York practically sells itself as a character, and aesthetically it's the fucking move. Not to mention all the outdated 1980s technology and weaponry. This would make the game feel like a whole different experience. For instance, Micro would have a giant computer set up, all bulky and shit. Any cameras would have to be hardwired and wouldn't have all that wireless tablet shit we see all the time. Weapons would be behind in terms of upgrades and modifications, but you could always take a page out of Call of Duty's handbook for that sort of thing. Frank would have to wear an annoying looking earpiece to be able to hear Micro. The battle van would be fucking mint in its 1970s glory because Frank isn't buying top of the line, he's buying reliability. Overall, I think part of me just wants something entirely unique with the ability to be as fucking wacky as can be while still providing a solid gaming experience. For me personally, all the comic books from my youth were from the 80s and 90s that my parents would buy for me at swap meets. So a part of me has a mega soft spot for characters from that era, and you can't tell me it wouldn't be at least a little interesting to see the characters from this era in modern day graphics. I'm not saying we should just have a classic comic book Frank and leave it at that, but the mere option would be nice. Shit, the black and white would get old for me eventually, but it would be badass to be able to see it mesh well with the environment we've built nonetheless. Personally, give me a white skull, black combat boots, black pants, and a trench coat, and I'd be as happy as a baby in a topless bar.
So anyways, let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Enough about the 80s and 90s. Let's get into the aspects of those games I listed prior so I can sell you on my made-up magnum opus. I've never written my ideas down for a video game, so this will be an experience for the both of us. This isn't just some in-depth analysis of every game I love, because that would take too long. Instead, I'd rather just take specific aspects from those games to try and paint a picture for you. Now, I understand not everyone is a gaming fiend, so I've taken the time to get some testimonies from my friends about these elements of gameplay. I don't really know how to classify the level of gamers that they are, but I do know that I'll make my own classification level under their name when they're speaking, so pay attention to that. Special thanks to Ali, Garrett, Julian, and Diedrich for helping me out. Without further ado, let's get into game number 1.
Units now! Officer in danger! Officer in danger!
10-5, please repeat. 10-5, all units, emergency. Officer in danger, Acer Plaza, repeat. Acer Plaza, all units.
They were all dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark to everything that led up to this point. I released my finger from the trigger, and then it was over. Oops, wrong Max Payne. The way I see it, there's two types of people. Those who spend their lives trying to build a future, and those who want to spend their lives trying to rebuild the past. Alright, Max Payne 3. Often referred to as the black sheep of the franchise. Another video game that has been beaten down like a pre-prohibition era housewife. This game has been milked dry for content and talked about so much that a retrospective isn't even possible anymore because we keep it so relevant. Well, I'm no better because I'm lining myself up to get a chance at those others. What I specifically want to harp on is the gunplay aspect. This game came out in 2012 and despite its developmental hell, it managed to make a fucking banging good time. Dude, I don't think I've jumped back into a game and played it through to its completion this many times other than the Arkham games. Something about how good the guns and firefights feel is addicting and it doesn't lose me in its repetitiveness. Also, I am biased because I am a sucker for James McCaffrey's Max Payne regardless of any story, but this isn't a video about the narrative experience. We're here for some high-octane action and bullet dodge mechanics. Let's hear from my boy Bubba Jamal97 as he tells us what entices him so much about Max Payne 3.
So for me, a big part of it would have to be the ragdolls. I love having like instant feedback, but also just like the bullets feel like they have like impact and momentum to them, because depending like if you're using a pistol, a shotgun, or a rifle, like they ragdoll. Especially it's very dependent on where you hit on the body. But so like that Euphoria engine, from what I understand, started with GTA 4, because I guess they like got the licensing rights to use that engine, and then they tweaked it for Red Dead. And I thought when Red Dead came out, I thought like that was like peak in terms of like ragdoll physics. I thought that shit was great. And then Max Payne just fucking killed it. Max Payne did it the best, honestly. Still like appreciate that, and that's one of like the reasons why I love Max Payne's gunplay. Or like any Rockstar game that makes like use of that Euphoria engine is just like, dude, you can hit them in the shoulder and they'll like fall back in the direction of like their shoulder getting hit.
Yes,
It's
dude.
just like it's fucking great, dude. Especially if there's like obstacles in the way. Like if there's like fucking glass, they'll smash through it. Or if there's like a fucking like a barrel right there, they'll like tumble over it. And then like coupled with the fucking like the little kill cams you got.
Oh
when
my
you killed,
God.
like the last guy in the group. That was great, dude. That shit was cinematic. I just love how the weapons would cycle and shit. Yeah, if you had like the Berettas and you're like in slow-mo in the air and you fire it, you can see the fucking gun cycle and kick out the casing, and just that shit was fucking tight.
Yes, dude. Or when
That
you
was
pick up a
great.
weapon or how you carry like weapons in your hand, that shit's sick. Like,
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So like if you're using a pistol but you also have the shotgun like in your inventory, he's just like holding on to it with his like left hand. I thought that was fucking tight.
look, at the end of the day, we could keep boring you with the details about the Euphoria engine and its attention to detail, but all I'm trying to convey is that it's a super fun game to play. And despite its age, it's still a third-person shooter that's withstood the test of time, and anything that good cannot be ignored. Therefore, to me, applying many of the concepts of Max Payne 3 into a Punisher video game would give it that push into being another fun classic despite any other flaws it may possibly have. Anyways, let's get on to the next game. I'll take this one. Mafia 3 and Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Look, I know these games have had their fair share of controversy and are rightfully outshined by their predecessors, but ignoring all that, I just want to praise one aspect of these two games that I enjoy and feel could be a good fit for our Punisher video game. It's simple, really. The sprinting and, well, maybe actually two things, actually, and the aggressiveness of the combat. The combat itself is debatable, but the way these games handle or feel, I guess, is what I'm going for. Maybe it's the camera or the fucking sheer zippiness the characters run around at, but dude, it's fucking sick running around like a tactical tank. I know Ghost Recon allows you to move around and plan out your attack with drones, parameter settings, camouflage, and silencers, but when you ignore all that and just absolutely ice some mercenaries in a rapid succession after sprinting, it feels good. It brings out a certain in-your-face style of gaming. Hard to describe, but I'm trying to latch onto that aggressiveness. In Mafia 3, you play as Lincoln Clay. This dude runs around like a jacked Michael Myers fueled by testosterone and gasoline, jamming his combat knife into the skulls of his enemies. He also just does unique takedowns for all different classes of weapons, which is badass, and I really appreciate that. Also, this goes without saying, but a Punisher video game needs some crazy-ass takedowns. This is a non-negotiable, obviously. Okay, math problem aside, I think I actually listed 3 aspects that I like in these 2 games. The sprinting, the ability to be aggressive, and the takedowns. That's it. Nothing else. So if we apply all these into a Punisher video game, what do you get? You get a Frank who can run around stacking bodies like nobody's business and performing badass takedowns. Satisfied? Let's move on. Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us Part 2. Alright. Let's not lose focus here and get off on a tangent on some shit like Arthur Morgan is better than John Marston, or I boycotted The Last of Us Part 2 because of who gives a fucking shit. I'm here to talk about one thing and one thing only. The fucking violence that these 2 games share. Look, I don't know what it is about blowing off someone's leg as they yell in agony that just warms my soul, or having the enemy beg for their life right before catching a smoocheroo from a 12 gauge, but whatever that feeling is, we need to hang on to it. Similar to the ex-girlfriend that is obsessed with you regardless of how poorly you treat her, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. Do you know how many therapy sessions I've avoided just by clearing a group of goons in The Last of Us Part 2? A disturbing amount of time wasted just chaining together the perfect montage of kills. The sweet sound of the crossbow getting embedded in some dude's throat as they gasp for air is just a chef's kiss. Or listening to American Venom while I yell Monica and send freedom fries through the hot barrel of my Litchfield repeater at the foul ruffians on Mount Hagen as their vibrant red blood stains the pure white powdery snow. I'm getting a little cozy just thinking about it. So let's hear from my boy Jay Burns on the violence and realism that we find in Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, you definitely feel the way your fucking kills. Yeah, like you shoot, like whenever you murder someone in front of someone else, you know what I mean? And they're like, no, Jeremy! Jeremy, no,
dude,
you know
what
I mean?
a nice
You're
touch,
like,
huh? And then, dude, all of a sudden you hear
Yeah,
like
dude.
my hunting rifle pop off, and it's like boom, and someone's arm flies off. They're like, "Oh my god!" And then you throw Molotov.
Yeah,
dude, it's
dude.
so perfect.
My favorite thing is when you like get the fucking perfect headshot, like from a distance,
Oh
like with a
my
sniper
God.
or whatever. You know what I mean? And you're just
Dude.
like, all right, this motherfucker right here is about to get it, and you just like
Or effects.
just goes flying everywhere. Feel like Django. Feel like a fucking straight up cowboy in that bitch, dude. Like, all right, these motherfuckers about to get it. Dude, the first time I shot that guy's head off with my shotgun, like up close, I almost felt like bad, dude. I felt
Yeah,
terrible.
dude.
I
Holy
was
shit.
like, fuck, I can't believe I did this, dude. His everything was gone, bro. And I was just like staring at it,
Dude.
like. Feels good being a fucking psychopath in those games for sure. You know what I mean? You just like get to do whatever you want in a brutal way. You know, like
Yeah,
you
dude.
can just I don't know, just the fact that we are given options, like I don't know, variety to how I kill. That's what makes those games really dope. Is like you see, like if you play as like Ellie and you go and like try and stab someone, you see like the real fucking like how real it would look. You know what I mean? The struggle of her trying to kill another person. Like the other
Yes,
person's
dude.
really struggling. She's like fuck. You know what I mean? She does it though successfully, and then you know you see Abby do it. Different approach. You know what I mean? She's kind of like. She could definitely
Oh my
manhandle the shit
God.
out of someone.
She fucking
You know
throws
what I
them on the
mean?
ground.
Like,
Dude, when she stomps people's heads out, I'm like, what the fuck?
yeah, dude, it's fucking wild.
Dude, I'm like, holy shit, this bitch is a tank, dude. Hawk Diesel, how does this pertain to a Punisher video game? Well, I'll tell you, you silly goose. I want heads to fucking pop off and limbs to fly across my screen like Aladdin. You see, what I've been getting at here is the realism and violence in these 2 games makes you feel the weight of killing someone, whether it be through sound, effort, or gore. It added to the lawless Wild West of Red Dead Redemption and the cold, unforgiving world of The Last of Us. Now, I understand being all doom and gloom can be a buzzkill, but come on, man. Let's not get it twisted. We're talking about one of the most violent characters in all of Marvel. He isn't a controversial figure for saving cats and doing it with a smiling face as he preaches the preservation of lives. He earned that title, and we'd be doing a major disservice to the character if we didn't get to see that blood and gore come into effect. Otherwise, it'd be nothing. It'd be the same as destroying mindless robots and drones or something. Nah, man, that ain't gonna fly. Give me that fucking violence and gore, and allow me to feel like the Punisher. Let's move on. The heist aspects of GTA 5. Remember, we're only talking about the heist aspects here, so let's pump the fucking brakes on literally anything else in this game that you might like. If you don't know how it works, it's actually pretty easy to simplify. In the game, the protagonist, either online or in the story, wants to pull off big heist, but to do so, they have to do setup missions to prepare for said heist, like find a crew, plan out their method of attack, or doing missions to gather the equipment they might need. The heist can play out very differently depending on all these factors. Okay, so maybe you see where I'm going with this. Often overlooked, but Frank is a tactical mastermind, carefully planning and doing recon way before he ever makes a move. He stays low-key in some rundown apartment, only going out to eat occasionally or to make moves ahead of his attack. This gets downplayed a lot because of the Karens in the world just claiming he's a gun-toting lunatic, or because they only ever want to talk about how dark the character's stories can be, or how he's bad for the MCU, which makes it seem as if that's all there is to him, but that's pretty unfair. Despite how Frank goes about wiping out the criminals of New York, Frank doesn't put cops or civilians in harm's way. He takes the necessary steps to make sure that thing never happens. So, in my opinion, giving me heist-like missions before a big story mission would be pretty badass and accurate. For example, if Frank was going to hit a large mansion where there's a dinner party taking place where mob guys and crime families are going to attend, you would have multiple options as to how you could do it. If you wanted to go in guns blazing with big heavy weapons, you do the bare minimum preparation. You'd obviously need guns and perhaps some money for equipment, so you could hit a cartel deal or a weapons deal and take their weapons or money after you obliterate them. You could then use the weapons seized in your assault or use the money to buy whatever upgrades or armor you'd like. If you wanted a more tactical approach, you would take on more preparation missions, which would then give you another leg up into your plan of attack. For example, you would have to do recon, like scouting the mansion for points of entry, cameras, number of guards, etc. It would all have to be done covertly to avoid tipping off anybody about your mission. This could give you a new or better approach to your plan of attack. Maybe it'll allow you to blow up or poison certain areas of the mansion that'll either wipe out a lot of enemies or draw them out into an area where they'll be like sheep to a slaughter for you. Also, recon will do basic things like provide you with how many people will be attending, how many civilians are going to be there, think of like the wait and kitchen staff, as well as allowing the player to feel like they have full control over the situation because they took the necessary steps. I'd also like there to be missions for Micro, where you do things for him like taking down a rival hacker or hitting a corrupt CIA operation to steal their equipment, which would help both of you in the long run. The more you help Micro, the better intel you'll get on your missions as well as the support. Ultimately, I just want to put the player into the mind of the Punisher, or better yet, the ability to do so. Like I said, there'd be a simplified way of approach with guns blazing and minimal setups so that the more casual gamer can still have a good time playing the game while still being true to the character. The tactical planning is where people who value replayability and versatility in how they game can truly feel in their element. It's all in the way you want to play. This is a perfect time to segue into the key component from Splintercell Blacklist that I wanted to touch on. Despite the fucking bizarre approach to Sam Fisher, the game implemented a system that encouraged you to take on 3 different playstyles. Ghost allowed you to play true to the original form, where you didn't want to get detected or kill anyone, so you'd use non-lethal takedowns, non-lethal weapons, and gadgets that helped you move like a ninja without being seen. You'd also use armor or suits that boosted your stealth or agility while taking on less defensive capabilities against guns. Panther tried to take the best elements of Splinter Cell Conviction. You'd be like this fucking ghost in the night, murdering people in the shadows like John Wick while going undetected. Heavy emphasis on silenced weapons, snapping people's necks, and mixing up the suit's capabilities with stealth and accuracy for weapons. The newest style they also encouraged is Assault. This is just outright using loud weapons and dropping bodies with no regard for stealth, which was completely out of character, but hey, I guess it's something new, so I can kind of appreciate it on a creative level, I guess. I only have one friend who's played the old and new Splinter Cell games, so I reached out to him to find out if he liked the ability of choosing your own playstyle. Let's hear from him real quick.
I feel like the Panther style was more catered instead of the Ghost. Like, yeah, you could Ghost some levels, but I feel like the Panther style, because you could mark and execute and just like chain enemies together, you know what I mean? I didn't like Assault at all. Definitely played Panther more than anything else. It was just like, I guess it was like a mixture of Panther and Ghost, you know what I mean? I'd set up like the mark and execute into like chaining enemies together and killing them quickly. Instead of like where it was Ghost, instead of trying not to be seen, you use like smoke, or not smoke, you use like gas to knock them out, or you just avoid them completely. It was fun playing Ghost, but I definitely, like, my first playthrough of Blacklist was definitely Panther.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm with you there.
'Cause it's definitely more fun killing people than completely avoiding them.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the game is like, you
Yeah.
can play however the fuck you want, and that's what they wanted. And that truly is the beauty of having the ability to play like you want. Power to the player to choose what they want to do is honestly all I want in a game. Sure, in certain video games, the creators want you to experience and play it in a way that they intended, and it for sure has its place in gaming. But having variety in playstyles really could work some magic for a Punisher video game. Look, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, where Frank's playstyles range from not killing anybody to murking everyone in sight, but give me a little bit of options. Maybe some badass stealth play and sneaking around the mission and then allowing me to kill everyone like a Reaper of Death in the night. Or perhaps allow me to become heavily reliant on technology in general and to depend on my battle van. That fucking battle van is so underutilized and talked about, so why not let it shine here? Most importantly, allow me to go fucking ballistic on the bad guys in true Punisher fashion in a lot of different ways. That can give me a chef's kiss moment to my playstyle. I'm sure you'll still have people overly ass-chapped that it's not all just guns and bullets flying, but
I'll tell you what I think. It doesn't matter what you think.
jokes aside, I'm here to open your mind to the possibility of using your mind the way you want to in the game, as well as being able to just turn off your brain and autopilot the whole experience if you choose to do so. I'm not trying to change the video game world, but shit, we're gonna have fun regardless. Let's wrap back to the tactical aspects for a moment. The last game on my list is Hitman. I can't think of a better game that allows you to really nail down the exact way you want to get something done, with so many combinations of tactics and strategies to do one task. I'd be sleeping on the innovation that it could bring to a Punisher video game. Now, I haven't played too many of the newer games, but I can still appreciate how much variety they've tried to give to their fans, which is what I've been preaching about for the last 5 minutes, so it only makes sense to bring it up. Now, I'm not asking for a copy and paste of Hitman, but taking some inspiration wouldn't hurt at all. Luckily, our last testimony is from a friend who's a lot smarter than I am and loves the Hitman games, so maybe he can sell us on what satisfies his gaming itch as well as what he gets from these games.
If you think about it, right, this game, from a tactical standpoint, what's really cool about it, it's not like, Call of Duty where it's just, you're following this path and you really only have this one option. Like maybe you can change your gun or use an explosive or whatever. But no, this game is like, dude, there's a million different ways that you can complete a mission, and there's like 100 up to like 150 different challenges for each of these missions. Like I opened up the game literally just to see, because I was like, dang, I don't want to be like spitting some shit out of my ass, but there's so much you can do in so many different ways to accomplish what you're doing. If you're someone that likes, sniping, there's plenty of that for you to do. If you're someone that you wanna sneak around and do some fucking James Bond shit where you're like shooting every now and then, but you're also sneaking, and if you want to just go gung-ho, you can do that too. The amount that you can do is way more than what you can probably even think of. What might be logical for you is probably not logical for me. I could be playing and then I'll have a buddy here next to me. He'd be like, bro, why don't you try this? And I'm like, oh shit, I never even thought about that.
And there you have it. Let's not start losing our fucking minds. I don't want a Punisher game that gives you that many ways to play it or that many challenges. But come on, big dog. You're telling me that having variety is a bad thing? Sure, sometimes having too much variety can create a dilemma of biting off more than we can chew, or it forces the developers to mass produce ways to do something instead of just taking a few things and making them with a lot of love and care. Much like a brothel as an adult is to a kid in a candy store, it doesn't hurt to have options, is all I'm saying. Take what I say and tell me to shove it up my ass, or perhaps unlock that crusty, rusty gate to your mind that allows you to be open to the ideas I've been pitching. Late 80s to early 90s Punisher in a game is fucking sick, dude, and I stand by it. If you need it too long to watch, or you've been fucking sleeping through my video, here's some spark notes. Max Payne 3's gunplay is still elite after all these years, and perhaps it's worth looking into as to why it's so badass, and I wouldn't mind a similar style in a Punisher game. Ghost Recon Breakpoint and Mafia 3. Pretty short and sweet here. I like how the characters sprint around and are able to make you feel aggressive in your assault. I also like Mafia 3's takedowns. Apply all that shit to a Punisher game. Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us Part 2. I like the visceral blood and gore and the realism. Please throw this into a Punisher game. It'd be fucking gnarly. GTA 5 heist system. Pretty easy here. Give me prep missions, plural, before I do any big assault. Frank is a weapons and tactical mastermind. Let me see that in action. Splintercell Blacklist and the newer Hitman games. Give me the ability to play how I want, goddammit. That's all I got for that. I don't give a fuck if you don't like any other aspect of these games that I didn't talk about. That wasn't the point of the video, and my intention was to kind of give you a glimpse into my concoction for a Punisher game, because I love Frank Castle as a character, and I love the old Volition Punisher game. We are way overdue for a new game that's as true to the character and as fun as that game was. So, I made a video about what a new one could look like. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.
Get in there, stab the shit out of some fucking random bitch just standing there and just stab her right in the neck.
Let the moose go and it'll fall on him and impale him with its horns or some shit.
I don't make no moves unless my heart is in it. Everything had changed when my mind started shifting. It's always up to you, and that's from start to finish.